be able to see the screen, but that's okay. Unlike Cody Rats, I don't need to buy myself a new computer, so for filming. So this will do. I'm sure it'll cope. So yeah, like many of you, I'm like thinking about when Colleen Ballinger is going to be arrested. Like, I think that's the question that's all on our minds right now. Obviously, we know that the police report has been filed by Adam McIntyre, which is great. More power to him. Like, he's killing it right now. Because, yeah, it takes a lot of courage to do something like that. And as someone who's never filed a police report, I hope I never have to. So, yeah. If you're watching this, more power to you, Adam. Keep at it. I love you, and yeah, just keep going with it. You're doing great, and the fandom has your back. The good side of the fandom, obviously, not the bad side. Okay, I just got to stop talking. So, I wanted to quickly make some videos before my sister gets back from college, because she has a boyfriend. And yeah, also I just want to film this video before Colleen actually goes to court, because then that would be disappointing by the time this video comes out and Colleen's already arrested. Obviously that would be great, but that means I get less money, so I actually don't even get paid right now, but I actually don't care. I just love making videos, and so I just really want to talk about this. So I've been looking at the website for the California Criminal Court, because obviously this is a charge that is a criminal case. I don't know much about law. I haven't got a law degree, but I think this is a criminal case, and the internet did say it was. So as if I needed clarification from the internet, this is like pretty serious shit. But so I'm going to try not to read the whole thing, because that's kind of like a waste of time. That means you guys could just jump on and look on the website. But I'm currently on www.courtsofcalifornia.gov, and so it's showing me, it's got a lot of concise steps, which is really good. So it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 steps. And sorry, I just had a dinner. It was very nice. Tahini pasta. Yeah, even though I'm under a lot of stress right now, yeah, it was very good. Might actually be some tahini on my chin. Okay, get back to it. So it says, when the police arrest someone, the defendant, they take him or her to jail. So obviously that person is going to be Colleen. And then after Colleen is arrested, then one of 3 things happens. So Colleen can be released if the prosecutor, which in America is called the district attorney or the city attorney, decides not to file charges. The defendant posts bail, also called a bond, or is released based on a promise to appear in court at a later date for arraignment. Arraignment, I don't know how to say that. So if either of those things happen, then the police or the district attorney will tell the defendant when to come to court or arraignment. Or Colleen stays in jail, which is obviously what we want. We want her to freaking rot in jail. Like, we do not need any more inch of that person to be out in this world. She does not deserve to be let into this world roaming free. And so, okay, so we've got the arrest. I hope I did a good explanation of that. No, I not just read the whole thing, which I kind of did, but anyway. Sorry, how a case starts. Usually the police will arrest someone and write a report. So obviously that's the first step that we're on right now. Adam has filed a report. And so obviously the police, it's obviously not going to happen straight away, the arrest. It'll obviously take a lot of people coming forward, which is what has been happening, which is really good. Yeah, a lot of former fans of Courtleen have come forward with their their horrible stories that have happened to them. I'm not going to say allegations because I believe that these are true. I don't think we're in a place anymore to say this is alleged by like news sources. Like I think it's great that news sources are covering this, and I'm literally waiting for the day. It's like Adam mentioned that it could be next week, it could be sometime this week that there's finally going to be coverage about the situation on the mainstream media. And so if you didn't already know that, Netflix is due to issue a statement. Adam couldn't promise obviously what it would be about. I don't think he's allowed to reveal that. That's totally fine. The fact that he mentioned it is pretty amazing. And so Netflix are probably going to issue a statement, and that might mean that Colleen's show, Haters Back Off, might get taken off the air. So that is a good sign. That is what we want. So yeah, that's just the kind of what's been happening right now. So obviously a police report is being written. So the report will summarise the events leading up to the arrest and provide witnesses' names and other relevant information. So defendants generally, this is interesting, defendants generally do not have a right to get a copy of the arrest report, but their lawyers do. So obviously the reason for this is to protect the identity of witnesses. This is another reason why it is important that a defendant charged with a misdemeanor or felony have a lawyer to represent him or her. So, sorry, I don't know much real quick. I just got to search up what is a felony. It's really dumb. I'm obviously guessing that's what Colleen should be charged with. I don't think it's a misdemeanor, but I just want to be sure. Yes, in US law, a felony is typically defined as a crime punishable by a term of imprisonment or not less than 1 year or by the death penalty. Oh my god, okay. Death penalty. I almost forgot for a while there that America had death row, but she clearly deserves to be charged with that. I'm not going to say that I stand for the death penalty. I live in a country where the death penalty is why is it so hard for me to say penalty? I live in a country where death penalty is it's not allowed. It's not a good word. It's illegal here in Australia. So all my life I've just kind of taken it for granted, like without a this is good sort of thing or this is bad. I think if you're grown up obviously in a country, if death penalty is seen as the norm, like in America or Japan where my mum's from, then obviously you're gonna kind of just be like neither bad nor good sort of thing. So that's kind of where I stand on not having the death penalty. Like obviously I agree with like most liberals and stuff that in America that are saying the death penalty needs to be abolished. Like I read a book recently, a really good book about death penalties and around the world and why they stopped and things. But I'm just going on a tangent here. But so yes, as we know, Colleen will be, once she's charged, she will be charged with a felony. If you already knew this and I explained it to you, I'm very sorry, but I just need to clarify that. So the next step is for the prosecutor to decide whether to file charges, and if so, what charges to file. The prosecutor decides whether to charge the crime as a felony or a misdemeanor. I stopped for a minute because I thought I read the whole thing. The prosecutor can file charges on all of the crimes for which the police arrested the defendant, or can decide to file fewer charges or more charges than were included in the arrest report. Why am I having such a difficult time saying words today? Arrest report. So hold on a sec. So okay, so the prosecutor will decide whether it's felony or misdemeanor. Prosecutor, alright, so within the police report they'll decide whether there needs to be more charges or fewer charges. So that's why the police report is beneficial, because it obviously provides a summary of what happened at this time, why this needs to be a higher charge, and then because defendants have a right to a speedy trial, the prosecutor must generally file charges within 48 hours of the arrest when the defendant is in custody, which is jail. Weekends, court holidays, and mandatory court closure days do not count against the 48 hours. So if I'm correct, right now in America it's like a public holiday, or it will be soon, but it will be the 4th of July. Also, the deadline for arraignment depends on what time of day you're arrested. So talk to a lawyer to find out exactly when the prosecutor's deadline to file charges is. This is where it kind of gets a bit confusing, because obviously Adam does not live in America, but he files the case in, obviously, England. So, yeah, obviously that part I'm not going to try and speculate on, because that could be a totally different system. But because I know Colleen lives in California, I've got the California website. So the arraignment is the first time the defendant appears in court. So at the arraignment, the judge will tell the defendant what the charges are, what her constitutional rights are, and if she does not have enough money to hire a lawyer, I don't think that applies to Colleen, the court will appoint a lawyer free of charge. The defendant may then respond to the charges by entering a plea. Common pleas include guilty, not guilty, or no contest. Why is it? This is the first time that I'm finally understanding what guilty or not guilty is. Is that just me? But so yeah, not guilty, like it literally says, is when they say I did not commit the crime. Sometimes defendants will enter a plea of not guilty as a strategic decision because they want to go to trial and force the prosecution to prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt. So I think this is what we can what's the right word? We can predict that this is probably what Colleen is going to go for. Like she's obviously going to say not guilty, because Colleen never admits to her wrongdoings or anything. She's just she hasn't even issued an apology video yet. If she ever will, or will it take her being arrested to finally just like say, do a huge crying fest? But yeah, so she's obviously going to say that she's probably going to want this to obviously lead to more of a longer trial and sort of like the, I guess, Gwyneth Paltrow thing. That's like the only thing I can imagine, think of the last celebrity case. Obviously that was the Depp first heard. But this is obviously no comparison to any of them. This is like beyond itself, like no words. Yeah, it really needs to be a court case. If those sort of things become a court case, then this definitely needs to be one. So guilty means the defendant admits she committed the crime. The judge will find her guilty and enter conviction in the court record. So this is obviously what we couldn't imagine Colleen doing. If she does do that, it will be pretty surprising. And then, I didn't know this, but there's a term called no contest. I don't know if we have that in Australia, but in American court it means the defendant does not contest or disagree with the charge, so the plea has the same effect as a guilty plea, except the conviction generally cannot be used against the defendant in a civil lawsuit. So if the defendant is in custody at the time of arraignment, after the defendant enters a plea, or responds to the charges, then the judge will release the defendant on his or her recognizance. I didn't even know that was a word. Which means the defendant promises to return to court on a specified date. I think you hear that a lot on the news, like this person will return to court at a later date sort of thing, so postponing it. Or set bail and send the defendant back to the jail until the bail is posted, or refuse to set bail and send the defendant back to jail. So bail, I'm just finding this out right now. Bail is money or property that a defendant puts up as a promise to return for future court dates. When they set the amount of bail, the judge takes into account the seriousness of the crime, whether the defendant is at risk to the community, and whether he or she is a flight risk and likely to run away. I think we can promise that Colleen is going to be a flight risk. I think we're aware of that. And she is definitely a risk to the community. So I think it would be good for her to this is where it gets tricky, because it's like I'm literally just finding out what bail means right now. Before then I had no idea what it means. So this is quite interesting. So I'm guessing Colleen will get bail. She'll set bail, and then she'll send the judge will send Colleen. They'll give her bail and they'll send her back to jail until the bail is posted. That's just my prediction, I think, of what will happen. But I think you'll have to ask. I obviously don't have a law degree, so it would be really cool if like any lawyers are watching this. I would love to like talk to you and obviously get the full scope of what you think about the situation. Because that would be really, obviously I don't just want to like say my stuff, because that could be completely untrue. So if you're a lawyer and you happen to be watching this, I would love to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and please comment, and I would love to just discuss with you. We can even do it over email or something, because if you don't want to be cold or whatever, it would just be really helpful, I think, for all of us, and to learn more about how the court system works. So, after the arraignment, can't believe we're going this further into the future and the court case hasn't even started. So we'll skip through the misdemeanors, because this is obviously not a misdemeanor. So after the arraignment, if the case does not settle or get dismissed, the judge holds a preliminary hearing. At this hearing, the judge will decide if there is enough evidence that the defendant committed the crime to make the defendant have to appear for a trial. If the judge decides that there is enough evidence, the prosecutor will file a document called the information. Then the defendant will be arraigned a second time on the information. At that time, the defendant will enter a plea and proceed to trial. So the prosecution and the defence will exchange information, which is called discovery. So in Colleen's case, she might be limited in what information she chooses to see, but her lawyers usually don't have to. They'll be able to, so with the help of her lawyers, she'll be able to find out. And that's because lawyers are required by law to protect the identity of witnesses while still preparing a defence, so that the witnesses are not put in jeopardy. So this is why it's so important, again, irrelevant for Colleen, but for a defendant to be charged with a misdemeanor or felony needs to be represented by a lawyer, which is not going to be hard for her. Either side can file pre-trial motions, including motions to set aside or cancel the complaint, to dismiss the case, or to prevent evidence from being used at trial. The defendant can change his or her plea to guilty or no contest. I read the whole thing. I still don't know what no contest means. Wow. Yeah, it's just so confusing. No contest. I might need someone in the comments to explain to me what that is, because if you haven't already learnt, I'm really bad at explaining stuff, so I'm probably the wrong person to be making this video. But anyway. You guys can make a better video than me, I will not complain. So it could be possible that Colleen also goes through a no contest plea. No, she wouldn't do that. Forget that. She would not never do that. She's too much in her own mind. So where are we up to? The judge and lawyers from both sides may talk about how the case can be resolved without going to trial. I think this needs to go to trial. I'm no expert, but I'm pretty sure this will go to trial. If it doesn't, that would be insane. There's just too much evidence here that needs to be it's a trial. It's not going to just happen at once. Defendants in criminal cases other than infractions have the right to have a jury of their peers decide their guilt or innocence. Therefore, before trial, defendants need to decide whether to have a jury trial, which is where the jury decides if the defendant is guilty or not, or a court trial, which is where the judge decides. Usually, defendants choose a jury trial because they want a jury of their peers to hear the evidence and decide their guilt. But sometimes there may be circumstances where a defence attorney will recommend a court trial without a jury. Okay, that doesn't make sense. That's almost like maths class. Why do maths when you can just try and decipher the whole court website, how the whole court system works? It's fine by me. There may be circumstances where a defence attorney will recommend a court trial without a jury. I'm afraid I do not know how to answer that, but yeah. So everyone, obviously as we know, everyone accused of a crime is legally presumed to be innocent until they're convicted, either by being proved guilty at a trial or by pleading guilty before trial. This means that it is the prosecutor who has to convince the jury that the defendant is guilty and must provide proof of guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. The defendant has a right to remain silent, and silence cannot be used against him or her. And as we know from watching Law and Order, that's what I remember. I know nothing about court, but they're like, you have the right to remain silent. Everything you say and can will be used against you in a court of law. I do a really bad accent, I know. But can I just say, Xylee, she was incredible when she questioned Cody's. I hope Cody's also gonna go to trial, because I think she really needs it as well. Everyone that was involved with Colleen, not just Colleen. I think obviously it'll start with Colleen and then it'll go. But at this rate, I just been thinking Xylee would make a great prosecutor. I know that can't happen, but the way she just asked the questions and had quick responses, no one can really do that. That was amazing. So I admire her, to be honest. She did a great job. So we're going to wrap things up, which is good. We're nearly done. I'm not going to make this go over 25 minutes. If I do, that would be pretty bad. There's 5 more parts. And for a jury trial on this felony case, the law will say how soon a defendant charged with a felony must be brought to trial. The prosecutor must file the information within 15 days of the date the defendant was held to answer at the preliminary hearing, and the trial must start within 60 days of the arraignment. So whenever that day is, I'm hoping it will be very soon. The defendant can waive, which is give up the right to a speedy trial. This means she agrees to have the trial after the 60-day period, also known as waiving time. It is important for defendants to get advice from an attorney before they waive time. So whether Colleen gets more days is in the hands of her attorney. What happens at trial? Before the trial starts, the lawyers will choose a jury, and so the process will make the attorneys on both sides ask questions of the jurors to make sure they will be fair and impartial, which is obviously very important in a court system. Before the lawyers present evidence and witnesses, both sides have the right to give an opening statement about the case. And during the trial, lawyers present evidence through witnesses who testify about what they saw or know. So this could obviously be a handful of people. I'm guessing it might be Cody, because she lives in America. Because obviously she could also be a defendant in the end, and she did a horrible thing. But yeah, it could be a lot, like, so I think this will definitely be a trial because there's just so many voices that need to be heard, and I'm sure Adam will do might do a video call sort of thing. After all the evidence is presented, the lawyers give their closing arguments. Finally, the jury decides if the defendant is guilty or not guilty. The jury must find the defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And now up to the verdict. So if they find Colleen not guilty, she's acquitted and she will be released. And she can never be tried again for the same crime, which is called double jeopardy. And obviously a finding of not guilty means she is innocent. It simply means the jury was not convinced. The arrest will still show on her record along with the acquittal. If she was wrong, no, we don't need to read that. If she is found guilty, hope so, she will be sentenced. And then after the trial, once she's found guilty, she can have an appeal, which means because she's charged with a felony case, she must file a notice of appeal within 60 days. So this doesn't mean that an appeal is a new trial, because the court can review the evidence presented at her trial to see if the court made a legal error, but she can only appeal if she says there wasn't enough evidence in the trial, which I'm sure there will be, to justify the verdict or judgment, and if she says there were mistakes of law during or before the trial that hurt her case. And so, yeah, that's like basically it. Sorry, just saw a message on my sister's iPad. Oh, so the obviously she'll find out her sentence. If it is a death penalty case, because she lives in California, Colleen will probably go to the California Supreme Court. And I think that's about it. I broke my promise. I went over 25 minutes. But I hope I explained things well. I hope you got a bit more insight into it. I hope it wasn't too dark, but thank you so much for watching, and we're in this together. Like, it's not a cliche. I've literally got everyone's back.